This is Sports 225. It is Sports 225. We're coming down the home stretch of the 2022-2023 school year / season. I always tie the two together, and every couple of months got to get with my guy, the Mad Dog, Ron Higgins of TigerDetails.com and the Dean of SEC Sports Writers. You know, on the little thing we put underneath you, it says Dean of SEC Sports Writers.
I appreciate that. I'm kind of like one of your closers for the year. You know, bring in the righty. You know.
Yeah, I might go a couple more weeks this year. I'm kind of motivated to keep going, but I don't know what's wrong with me. But we'll see. This could be it. This could be the last one. I don't know.
You'll get over it.
Yeah. We, of course, are in our respective homes in our offices in Baton Rouge, but in the new Zoom world, this is how we do TV. So I got this philosophical thing I want to start with. Okay, so the LSU basketball team, you know, they used to say a basketball team reloads. Now they just re-import all new players.
Yeah.
The LSU women's basketball team won the national championship because of new players. You know, Kim Mulkey said in a pre-Final Four news conference, somebody asked her, you know, what's been the key? She said the transfer portal. And, you know, without the transfer portal, that's maybe a middle of the pack team. I don't know. Well, now the LSU basketball team, and I'm using these as just isolated examples of a general big picture throughout college sports. How do coaches navigate this, and who taught them how to do it? You know, they used to use this thing they used to say team culture. Well, it can't be any team culture anymore, right? So I know I threw you like 12 softballs there, but hit them in whatever order you choose.
I mean, I think first of all, most staffs now have an assistant devoted to scouring the transfer portal all year, every day. Or what interests me is that when coaches play another team during the season, do they ever think to themselves, "Well, I'd like to have that guy on my team"? You know, I mean, if he's in the transfer portal, I'm going to go get him. I'm always interested in, you know, and say football players, say a wide receiver goes out and runs an out pattern, catches a pass at the feet of Nick Saban. Saban says, nice catch. He says, "Hey, be in touch," you know.
No, I mean, that has to happen. I'm thinking guys on opposite teams have to say to each other, you know, "Hey, that was a nice tackle. Why don't you think about joining us next year?"
I know, like you're recruiting a guy in the middle of a game, you know?
Right.
You can't beat us, join us, okay? It's just a whole new world, and the rich usually get richer. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, you want to go somewhere that wins, like take LSU women's basketball, won the national championship. You got the two best players in the portal. LSU's gone from being number 14 in preseason this past year to win a national championship to being the most hated women's team in America because they have big personalities. They got a coach that people don't like the way she dresses. And of course, if you know Kim Mulkey, it's kind of like putting on her suit of armor for a game. She doesn't dress like that all the time. She dresses like that for 2 hours every game. That's about it. But you got your star player now that's driving a Mercedes because of an NIL deal. She's also got a Sports Illustrated swimsuit shoot she's done. And so I'm just interested to see how coaches now, like Kim Mulkey, handle coming off a national championship. Before it was just the challenge of like trying to be the best you can be, and there's not many outside distractions other than people, you know, trying to meet people. Now you have everybody in the world coming at you with NIL deals, and how do you keep your team focused rather than being really, really, really fat and happy from all the money coming in? That's the new world of college athletics, and the transfer portal has been great to her, but also I think she couldn't have done this at Baylor, what she's doing now, where I know she averaged like 30 or 31 wins a year at Baylor, but now she's at a place where you've got plenty of NIL money coming in, and you can go out and buy players, and you've got this humongous social media support from LSU that's all it has you always on Twitter and social media, so that helps your recruiting. It's like this big monstrous machine got put together in a hurry.
No doubt. And to your point, the well, there's so many things there, but to backing up, did you ever think that we would be talking about you saying a phrase, the most hated women's team? Like nobody hated women's teams,
Yeah.
for starters, nobody cared about them, and
It's,
but now
it's something. It's a good thing in some sense. I mean, people watch. There are games that have changed the course of history in sports. Michigan State, Indiana State in men's basketball blew the Final Four was a good deal, but it blew up to what it is now because of that game. I think LSU Iowa has done the same for women's basketball. All of a sudden, you've got women. My God, they're acting like men. They're taunting each other. They're ballers, man. They're playing, but who's to say they can't taunt each other or be cocky or whatever? And so I think that's done the same thing for women's basketball. Now, women's basketball, honestly, is a hell of a lot interesting than men's college basketball. To be honest, I mean, you got bigger personalities. You've got great players, and actually, the college basketball this year in Final Four is kind of boring. I mean, I know you had brand new teams there, but it was kind of like,
well, this was an anomaly this year too, but it was different. All right, so we got to take a break. We come back in the next segment. I do want to talk about men's basketball because it factors in with you too. I would say this. I would like to see Iowa and LSU play a regular season match.
oh yeah,
Crazy if they don't play it during the Christmas holidays, get a network involved, and not ESPN, but ABC or CBS, and make it a really, really big deal and play it in a super stadium. Don't just play it at either the Assembly Center or Iowa. You ever been to Iowa, by the way, for a basketball game? It's weird. You walk in and then you go down. It's dug into the ground. It's this huge bowl, if you will. But anyway, that game could be played in a big stadium. Enough about that. He's Ron Higgins from TigerDetails.com. I'm Lee Feinsbach. This is Sports 225.
Congratulations, East Baton Rouge. You did it. You topped every big city in the country. You envisioned an ambitious reinvention of our park system. And we, as a community, embarked on a multi-year effort to reimagine our parks and facilities. And all that work didn't go unnoticed. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Back on Sports 225, hanging out with Ron Higgins, just catching up as we're in the time of year in the springtime where things slow down just a little bit. It's kind of nice. So I finally had a chance on a couple of nights to watch and finish the whole SEC Network series about, they called it Southern Hoops, which was basically a history of basketball in the SEC. And parts of it were absolutely fascinating. My favorite parts were when they interviewed Ron Higgins, of course. But yeah, there was an agenda there, and there were a lot of things that were left out conveniently. There was which producers of TV shows have the right to do all that. So I kept saying, but wait, what about, but you didn't mention, and this and that. But all in all, it was really kind of interesting, and especially during the times that were so amazingly fun in SEC basketball, the late 80s through the 90s.
the late 80s or 90s were awesome, and they'll. I'm sorry, it'll never be like that again. When coaches said what they had to say, and words weren't so measured, and your coaches were all big personalities. And God, it was just fun. And look, the players were great too. I mean, I had so much fun those years covering Kentucky versus Arkansas. The amount of NBA players on the floor. I mean, they touched on some of that when Arkansas came league in that series. When Arkansas came to the league and the first time the SEC tournament, it was fast. It was good stuff. I mean, the whole series, you could see like it was basically racially based, saying you've gone from this league that had a team in Mississippi State where the state would not let him play against black players in the NCAA tournament to a league that's fully interracial with, black coaches and interracial players. And I think it promoted the growth of the SEC in that direction. I mean, I thought the guy did a good job, and it's hardly packed everything in there. It really is.
Yeah. The last part of it with Nolan Richardson for me was so much fun to see Nolan there again. And one thing that jumped out at me quickly was how Arkansas and Nolan came to terms again, and he went back and they named the court after him. And think how many years before LSU finally got to the Dale Brown Court, which is now going to be renamed again, the Sue Gunner Dale Brown Court, but Nolan Richardson had the court named after him after being fired from Arkansas.
Yeah. It shows you as dysfunctional as Arkansas was, nobody can out dysfunctional LSU. Nobody. Nobody. No. Look, the Pete Maravich statue was 6 years in storage before they wheeled it out. Okay. It takes them forever to do stuff now, except obviously you can see now there's an agenda at LSU also to make things, I guess, righter for minorities or whatever. I mean, LSU women's basketball player Simona Gusso's got a statue in like 8 months. Like you're retired, you get a statue. It took college basketball's all-time leading scorer 52 years to get a statue. It took LSU's basketball coach, 25 years to still coached, at least? Yeah. To have a court named after him. Then they took it back. It's basically, it's like LSU feels like it has to make up for all the inequities it supposedly had in the past. And it kind of stems from their new president and what his agenda. It's kind of filtered through the whole university. I mean, some people don't like it. Some people think it's refreshing. So, whatever.
I don't know how long it takes to make a statue and how hard it is. I've never really thought about statue making before, but I do know that when Skip Bertman was the athletic director at LSU, his mission was to have statues, but people were going to pay for them. And including he tried to get Shaq to pay for his own. And I don't know how much money he ever got out of Shaq. Yeah,
I mean, and all the LSU's, all those statues are made by one guy named Brian Scanlon, who's done all of them. And I mean, LSU was behind in the statue game for a long time. I know the average person on the street goes, why should they have athletic statues? Well, I can't tell you why, but I mean, I just know the LSU, as far as the SEC, was behind everybody else. I mean, the only statue they had on campus for a long time was Sue Gunner in the Assembly Center. Then they added Shaq and went on their merry way. But I mean, some people I think absolutely deserve statues. I mean, who at Alabama they have a statue of all their national championship football coaches outside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now, I've always been fascinated what happens if they win more than one. Like, Nick has a statue. Should they have like a bunch of little Nicks next to him, like children, for all the national championships? They don't.
Little chess pieces. I'm still. Yeah. Are you waiting? If they did that at LSU, you'd have a Les Miles statue.
Oh yeah, and I know that would be. How should we make Les look? How about confused?
Wearing a Colombo sport coat or a raincoat. All right, let's take a break. We've lost complete control. When we get back, you want to make fun of the Advocate? We could do that when we get back.
Let's do it.
He's Ron Higgins. I'm Lee Feinswag, and we have a reason why we should. This is Sports 225.
Congratulations, East Baton Rouge. You did it. You topped every big city in the country. You envisioned an ambitious reinvention of our park system. And we, as a community, embarked on a multi-year effort to reimagine our parks, and facilities. And all that work didn't go unnoticed. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Back on Sports 225, hanging out with Ron Higgins, the one we call Mad Dog, the dean of SEC sports writers. He's a columnist for TigerDetails.com, covers LSU, and has covered everything under the sun over the last, Ron, it's getting close to 50 years. And actually before that, because your first job, if I recall, was as a teenager. I want to say you were 13, and Ted Castillo from then the Morning Advocate hired you to cover some preps.
Yeah, I was 13. I've already been kind of working up there. So I was like 8 years old. My dad used to work up there in the summer. And that's where I learned how to type with 2 fingers and learn how to write stories, and was given an assignment of writing 8 or 9 paragraphs on Breck softball or Bear Collegiate baseball when they brought it in. They were bringing the score sheet in. But when I was 13, Ted said, "You want to go cover a game and we'll give you a byline?" I said, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Well, can your mama give you a ride to the game?" I didn't have a driver's license. And so that's how it started. Covered the Baker Jamboree, my first assignment, and walked to the locker room after the game. The coach said, "We need some more towels." He thought I was the manager. So that's how that went. But I'm forever grateful to Ted Castillo for that. He gave me the first chance, had confidence in me, never second guessed himself, never made me feel like I was 13 years old. Yeah. I mean, obviously,
yeah. At the end of the last segment, I said, well, we're going to, make fun of the Advocate. So the Advocate, the daily newspaper that's been in Baton Rouge for a very, very long time, is where Ted Castillo worked as the prep editor until the mid-90s. And Ted was known as the prep talker. Scott Rabelais and I talked about it right after he died here on the show a couple of weeks ago. The Advocate has yet to write an obituary or a testimonial or a tribute to one of the more important journalism figures in sports history in Baton Rouge and maybe Louisiana, just for what he did. That's the kind of thing that just blows my mind.
Yeah, I think they're trying to adhere to the family wishes, but it comes to a point where, like you said, this guy's one of the more important journalists in Louisiana sports history. He was a guy who redefined high school coverage. He was the first guy who really gave a crap about high schools and emphasized them and did a great job to organize their coverage. Listen, like I said, I covered high schools from the time I was 13 years old till I went to college in Texas for a couple of years and came back to LSU. But yeah, there should be something in the paper, and it's news. And a couple of weeks have passed now, 2-3 weeks, and there comes a point where you have to say, we understand that's your wishes, but you have to also realize there's a lot of people who think that your father or your husband was so well respected, and people have never forgotten about him. And so, yeah, I guess it's a tough call by the Advocate, but it's news. It's a newspaper. And there comes a point where you say, okay, we got, and I know they talked to the daughter, and I know that they talked to me about him. They need to write something at this point.
Yeah, at this point, a tribute feature would be in order. Anyway, speaking of tribute features, you writing any of these days?
Tribute features?
Or just anything good be said? Mostly
LSU baseball right now. I mean, they're as we speak right now, they got 2 weekends left in the regular SEC season. They're about a half game out of first place. Finally lost their first SEC series this past weekend. Struggling with pitching, had the best pitcher in America as their Friday night starter. The other 2 starters, not so much, and had some pitching injuries. And you start to see some cracks in the how good they are. But it's one of those things that it could all be cleared up if you get enough offense and hit the ball really well and don't commit errors. So that's kind of covered them up all year, covered the pitching up all year, so those things. And but again, you're getting to part of the year where you better have really good pitching in postseason, because of the amount of games you have to play to win a championship. So that's going to be the determining factor. One, whether LSU gets to Omaha or they win the national championship.
back to the first segment when we talked about transfer portal and NIL. So the LSU baseball team, of course, has benefited greatly from transfer portal. So I was thinking, how about like in the old days, like when baseball teams barnstormed? Under the NIL, could they do this? Could they get a bucket and pass it around around the stands? You know, you got 8,000 people from LSU, and if everybody threw in a buck, and people would throw in 10s and 20s, they could collect after every game and distribute it among the players. I'd like to see how that would work for NIL.
They really could, and then they'd be way ahead of the game there. I mean, imagine the recruits they could get. You got LSU, man, they pass the bucket, man.
Oh, I mean, I'm thinking that what's keeping that from happening?
Oh yeah,
is there a rule against that in the NIL? Because there are going to be new rules, and they're going to try to govern this thing. But what's to keep an Odell Beckham Jr. from going down on the field and passing out 50s and 100s and cigars?
He was way ahead of his time, obviously.
Obviously, so are you and I. Just stop there before we both get in trouble.
He was the godfather of NIL.
You're the godfather of sports writing in Louisiana. He's Ron Higgins. I'm Lee Feinswag. We got time for one more segment here on Sports 225.
Congratulations, East Baton Rouge. You did it. You topped every big city in the country. You envisioned an ambitious reinvention of our park system. And we, as a community, embarked on a multi-year effort to reimagine our parks and facilities. And all that work didn't go unnoticed. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225. Go to sports225.com for all the show listings of one we're on here on Your View, which is Cox 4. This won't be the last show of the season. I got to do a couple more because I'm just in the mood. But it is into May, the best of, May, June, July, and part of August is usually the MO. Ron Higgins is with me, who is not only a fabulous sports writer and my longtime friend, but noted actor. Got any parts lately?
It's been slow. It's been kind of tailed off at the beginning of this year. Hopefully this summer it'll spark up some. So it's given me a chance to go on some cruises and stuff like that. The most fascinating thing to me about cruises is that they always have an Italian captain, and he comes on and gives an announcement at the start of the cruise, and you can't understand anything he's saying. He goes, "Hello, this is your Capitan. Right now, we're going to do a emergency life vest drill." Like, what's he saying? Life dress drill? What? What's he saying? It's awesome. But right now there's not many parts working, but so I'm basically doing what I'm doing, just writing sports as I always do, and going on a cruise every 2 months. And before you know it, football season will be here, and a whole new year of mayhem.
You'll cruise during hurricane season too, aren't you? Will you? I mean, you're fearless.
Yeah, you kind of think we go in August and late, and we go August and the October open date week. We do that. We've been able to dodge a lot of stuff so far. We've been lucky, but you never know. So far, we go every 2 months, and we try to dodge the hurricanes. I mean, usually between May and August, we don't do cruises because, and then the August, because of basketball football season, not even really anything until December, except the open date week. Yeah.
He is Ron Higgins, the most interesting sports writer, noted actor, cruiser, and stuff that he writes for TigerDetails.com.
And drummer. I'll send you the clip of the drums.
Oh yeah, all right, I'll put that in right now. We'll finish with the drummer. Thanks for watching Sports 225. Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome.